The point of activity A is to show you the relationship between the graph and the runner's behavior. So right now, we are not going to change any settings. I know it's super tempting to play, but we're going to make sure that the number of points is 2, and we haven't turned on or selected any other settings. So in the gizmo, we are going to run the race many times with a variety of different graphs. And this is key. The red points on the graph can be dragged vertically. Pay attention to what the graph tells you about the runner. All right. So when we go to the gizmo, what they're trying to show you is that notice that this red point, the 4-second mark, I can grab it and I can move it. All right. And then I can do the same thing for here. So what I can create is what's called an uphill graph, where from left to right, the red line seems to be going up the screen or uphill. Um, I can make it perfectly flat, okay? And I can also make the graph look like it's going downhill from left to right. So from left to right, as I move forward in time, I am kind of decreasing my distance. So we have to answer a couple of questions here on the gizmo. First one, if the graph is going uphill from left to right, what does the runner do? And so when I go here, I right now I've got an uphill graph. Now there's a lot of different ways I can make an uphill graph. I can have a very almost flat, but not perfectly flat. So it's a not steep uh, red line, or I can have a very quickly increasing or steep red line. Imagine if this was a hill, you would say that this is a steep hill that you are trying to run upwards. All right. So whether I've got um, uh, a, a not steep or a very steep, as long as it's going uphill from left to right, you can kind of figure out what the runner's doing. So let's click reset. So here we've got a basic uphill red line. And when we click play, that's what the runner does. Now, notice that the runner doesn't make it all the way to the end. The runner here stops a little after the 30-yard line, and that makes sense because at 4 seconds, we're this intersection of the red and green line, it looks like we are at a little past the 30-yard line. All right. I can even click reset. At the very beginning of the race, this runner is starting at the 20. And when I click play, for the 4 seconds, they're only going to make it to about the 31-yard line. All right. So whenever the line is uphill from left to right, the runner seems to move forward. So all we have to say is the runner moves forward. Okay. If the graph is going downhill from left to right, what does the runner do? Well, let's click reset. Now I need to move my red dots so to have a downhill line. Now notice which way the runner is facing. I'm going to move this back up here. The runner is now facing what we're going to call backwards or head towards the starting line. Now the runner is facing forward. So I can actually change which way the runner is moving. So in a downhill line, just to make a prediction, my runner's starting at the 32-yard line, and the runner is going to end at about the 9-yard line. And that means when I click play on a downhill line, the runner is actually going to go back to the starting point. The runner is running backwards in this race. All right. So when we answer this question, if the graph is going downhill, what does the runner do? Well, the runner's going backwards. It's going back to the starting line. Okay. If the graph is steep, how does the runner move? So let's go back. When the runner has a steep hill, let's click reset, or steep red line. When we click play, the runner moves at a pretty decent speed. When I have a not very steep line, yeah, A whole lot slower. So it seems to be that the steeper the hill, or the steeper the red line, I keep saying hill, the steeper the red line, the more distance they are going to cover in that 4 seconds. So if you're covering more distance in the same amount of time, that means that you are moving faster. So when the graph is not very steep, they're going to only cover 10 yards in 4 seconds. Here, they're going to cover 20 yards in 4 seconds. So that's a lot faster. Here, they're going to cover 30 yards in 4 seconds. And here, they're going to cover 40 yards in 4 seconds. So the steeper the line you have, the more distance you are going to cover in that amount of time. So they're basically moving faster. So if the graph is steep, how does the runner move? Well, faster. If the graph is not steep, but not horizontal, so I don't want a perfectly horizontal line, how does the runner move? Well, they're covering less distance in the same amount of time, so they're moving a lot slower. And then finally, if the graph is perfectly horizontal, what does the runner do? For that question, just make sure that your 2 points are at the same. Now, prediction time, you're starting at the 10, and then 4 seconds later, you're at the 10-yard line. So it's not too difficult looking at the graph to predict what's going to happen here. All right. That should take you through this section, and then we will go on to walkthrough 3.